thank you for this. I'm very impressed by this book. I think it's a question that many in Sweden consider very hard to tackle and to talk about. And yeah, in the wake of the notorious New Year's Eve in Cologne, 2015, so feminist theorists have been confronted with the ways in which feminism was quickly appropriated in the service of racism. And the persons who use this supposed feminist rhetoric to argue for nationalist questions, who are they targeting? Who are they talking to? And are they feminists, do you think?
Yeah, that is actually an interesting question. I mean, if you... Oh, I start with a little anecdote. Just a few months ago, I had a conversation with one of the representatives of the AfD, the Alternative for Deutschland, in the Berlin Parliament. She calls herself a hardcore feminist. And I asked her, I'm making it short, I asked her, and there was a radio feature on women politicians in the AfD, and she was one of the women who were portrayed in this radio feature, and she felt her feminism didn't come across enough. I was interviewed for this radio program as an expert, so the next day she called me because she wanted to make sure that I understand that she is a feminist, a hardcore feminist. And I asked her, well, is that not a contradiction? How can you be a hardcore feminist doing politics in an anti-feminist party? And she said, well, it's not true. The AfD is the only party in the German party system that does something against the Muslims. And the Muslims are the ones that are taking away all our feminist achievements. And this is why it's not a contradiction to be a hardcore feminist in the AfD. Because in her understanding, the AfD is a feminist, so to say, a feminist party. So, from a feminist point of view, it makes it really hard to differentiate, you know. It's not so easy to say, okay, then it's not feminist. And this is something we had to, you know, it was pretty hard in the book to like develop a point of view, not saying, okay, they are all racists and this is not feminism, but to understand that they clearly do have a feminist agenda in following kind of, you know, racist goals, so to say. So back to the question, whom are they addressing? I think in 2017, you can't sell, you can't argue a blatant non-feminist, anti-feminist politics anymore. Because, I mean, not a single woman in any Western democracy, even if she does not claim herself to be a feminist, you know, would not go back beyond women and men are equal. So you can't, you know, gain votes by saying, oh, we are against equality between men and women. But you can gain votes by, oh, they might take away some of the rights achieved. For example, in the French election campaign, Marine Le Pen, clearly advocated this kind of, she would like address the regular French woman saying,
yes,
I'm the only one, Front National is the only one who protects all the rights. Pretty much like this AfD politician in Berlin said to me, and this is clearly, this is the position of Marine Le Pen, and you can go from one European country to the next. I mean, you find this kind of, now we are already at this topic, what Sarah Ferris calls femonationalismus, femonationalism, you know, a feminist articulation in the name of racist.
Yes.
Of a racist agenda, basically.
So it's a kind of feminism, but a racist.
Yeah,
feminism.
I mean,
yeah.
I would say it's a racist feminism.
Yeah.
And you know, when you say that, it's just like, oh, that can't be the case. How can feminism be racist? Racist. But again, if you go back in history, there's been colonial feminisms all along. I mean, white women going into the colonies, civilizing the brown women in the colonies, white women going into the colonies and trying to, you know, to in search of liberties they would not have back in their home countries.
So this kind of ambivalence has existed as a history. It's nothing new.
Right, that's not new, but apparently it still works.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I've seen this kind of rhetoric from the AFD. They say, like, we talk to you who are afraid in the streets, and to queer people as well.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, right, and you have all these kind of paradoxes. Like, we analyzed one interview in the book between Frauke Petry, who's now not AfD any longer, but who's been the spokesperson of the AfD, with Katrin Göring-Eckardt, one of the spokespeople of the Green Party. And Frauke Petry says to Katrin Göring-Eckardt from the Green Party, well, we are the ones defining LGBT rights. And you, with your cultural relativism, basically, you know, you deny that queer people on the streets of Berlin are beaten up by migrant youth, for example. Which is happening, of course. I mean, it's not, I mean, our answer then can't be to deny this kind of homophobia, transphobia, but what we try to argue in the book is, and what I just said in the introduction, what we call Versämtlichung, this kind of fundamentalisierung in the discourse. And it's, this is a migrant, so he must be homophobe. This is a migrant, so he can't respect women.
Yeah, it's a kind of essentialistic.
This kind of shortcut.
Yeah, and it's a hard question, but without generalizing, women and men in Muslim countries face limits and threats to their rights. Couldn't this explain the increasing focus on these areas and the critique of immigration, you think? Or could it be legit to criticize immigration on this ground?
Yeah, I mean, now we have a situation, and it was mentioned already in the beginning, the controversy of this summer in Die Zeit between Judith Butler and me on one side and Alice Schwarzer on the other side. And we've been accused, and Paula Villa and I have been accused of cultural relativism, for example. That we excuse the kind of atrocities, the kind of inequalities, violences that happen to women worldwide, especially supposedly in Muslim countries or in countries with dominant Muslim culture, which is of course.
Isn't there a risk of removing responsibility from the other or so?
Yeah, I mean, we've been accused of that as well, in terms of, we are always, taking the andere out of the, responsibility, which is not true. I mean, if this is the, so to say, kind of general moral rule, then it of course applies also to the andere, I mean, of course, no man has the right to sexual violate women, sexually arrest women, no matter in no place in the world, of course, you know. And we did write about this in the book as well. I mean, every man, regardless of his religious faith, regardless of his race, ethnicity, cultural, political beliefs, has the freedom to not be violent, to not harass sexual women, and that's the baseline, you know. I mean, that's of course the baseline that applies to every man, to every person, you know. But what we saw after Cologne was clearly, you know, like, and we see it now in the Me Too. Harvey Weinstein was already mentioned. I mean, no one talks about, oh, is it because
they are white men?
There is a patriarchy in white Western democracies? No, no one talks about that. It's not related to their culture, to their religion.
You're not talking about the rape culture in the film and media industry.
Yeah, right. It's singular men who misuse their power.
Yes.
But it's not related to rape culture, right?
Yes.
To patriarchy, to sexism. So these kind of...
It's not the same demonizing.
Yeah, right, yeah.
The English feminist political scientist Nicola Pratt, she suggests a strategic silence on women's rights in general in order to escape the complicity with racializing discourse and associations with the war on terror. And I've heard the same kind of rhetoric in Sweden, that we should not talk about cases of violence in other cultures, because then it can like give fire to a racist rhetoric. But is this the only possible answer to the ambivalent entanglements of feminists and racists, do you think? Is this the only...
No, I absolutely disagree with that position. We need to address this kind of violence, but as white women, you know, as women in the imperial West, so that kind of use a kind of short term, we would first of all need to, you know, empower women in these countries to address these issues. I mean, we can't just go there and speak for them, which is happening all too often still, basically. But we can also, I mean, to silence these kind of violence, for example, can't be an option either. I mean, that word feminists often criticize Western feminist discourses for that they say, well, we hardly have the platform anymore to address the inequalities in our countries. So we need to find ways of collaborating with women in the global south, with feminists in the global south, on a more, you know, eye-to-eye, equal level, but not, first of all, neither speaking for them nor silencing their issues as well.
Yes. You criticize a form of feminism from the late, for some years ago, the alpha mentioned feminism, individualistic feminism, whose goal seemed to be that women should imitate traditional roles of men in their living and acting. And what do you think of this kind of feminism? And do you have an, yes, you have already said, kind of an alternative, so...
Yeah, I mean, that is kind of interesting, the different phases, basically, feminism went through over the period of the last 10 years. Like, pretty much 10 years ago, the diagnosis would have been, okay, feminism is dead. I mean, really few women, you know, dare to claim feminism as a label, as a political point of view. they had this wave of in Germany of the Alpha Mädchen, the Alpha girls, who kind of claimed to articulate a kind of very individualistic version of feminism. Not saying feminism in the first place.
A kind of Sex and the City feminism?
Yeah, right. Kind of Sex in the City, in terms of, well, we can be everything we want to be, and we don't need this kind of old-fashioned, fashion-hating, sex-hating, second-wave feminism. I think from looking at it from now, I think this has been actually a necessary stadium in terms of it was necessary to get rid of second wave feminism.
Why?
Because we Western democracies apparently needed to get rid of, first of all, a language of solidarity, a language of collectivity, the language of understanding inequalities in structural terms, and not only in a kind of individualistic model. So we needed this kind of what Angela McRobbie in her book, The Aftermath of Feminism, has brilliantly analyzed. We needed this kind of disarticulation, repudiation of second wave feminism in order to recreate the neoliberal version of feminism, and now the kind of racist, neo-reactionary, maybe even proto-fascist versions of feminism. To enable the kind of feminisms we have now, we had to get rid of the second wave feminism.
But what do you think is a future feminism would look like? Or what's your wish for a future feminism?
Because I think between the lines it's clear that I still in favor of many of the insights of second wave feminism, but of course it's not possible. First of all, it's not possible, and second, we have to recognize that the world has changed and is not the world of the 60s and 70s and maybe early 80s anymore. So even second wave feminism has to transform and to somehow, answer, for example, to the challenges by women of color, by queer feminists, and by the challenge of that we live in a completely different world than in comparison to the early 70s in terms of the global challenges we face. So we need to reframe many of the second wave ideas. But I think the future we have ahead of us is first of all one of the many different articulations of feminism. And this will go on for quite some time, I think.
Yeah, there is not one.
Yeah, right. And there is clear, I mean, as much as we have a kind of, struggle for hegemony in general in Western democracies, we also have this kind of struggle within feminism. And the future can be that the kind of racist feminisms win. And if we don't want that to happen, we have quite some work ahead of us, I would say.
Yes, and do you think that the way to go is to talk? To how should we meet this? How should we deal with this kind of racist feminism? Do you have a tactic or a strategy for that? It seems like you have a dialogue with some of them, even if it's
even if it's difficult. But it's actually pretty, on many levels, pretty hard to be in dialogue with these feminists. First of all, because they don't want dialogue. I mean, they don't enter a conversation with the goal to try to work on, find out different points of views and try to move forward. They want to win.
And what does it mean for them to win, you think?
To win in
what do they want?
I mean, they don't want people like us to be there in the first place. So,
and it's important to know that.
Yeah. So, entering a dialogue with, I mean, not only racist feminists, but entering the dialogue with people on the right can only work if you were pretty aware of the fact that they don't want to share the world with others.
That's hard to...
I mean, it's not... we can't afford to be naive on that point. I mean, they don't want to share the world. They want the world to themselves. So that makes it difficult,
yes,
to enter any kind of political conversation or controversy with them. But we do need to speak up. I mean, that's at least one of the decisions I, as an academic, took, that we need to speak up every time that they raise their voices. One of us has to be there and talk back.
Yeah, instead of...
And we're not doing that enough at the moment. We have to do that a lot more.
Yeah, instead of dividing and conquer, you, Unterschieden herrschen, you propose another way of handling the modern situation we are in right now. You call it an open engagement with difference, and I find it compelling, and I don't know exactly what it means. Could you tell us a little?
I might have to do that in German. Is it Dolmetscherin still there? Okay. Wir haben im Buch gesagt, dass wir eben nicht gegen Unterschied, gegen Differenz per se sind. Das wäre ja vielleicht eine kurzschlüssige Antwort darauf. Wenn Unterschiede, wenn Differenzen benutzt werden, um zu herrschen, dann ziehen wir uns auf die Position, wir sind doch alle gleich, zurück. Ja, wir sind alle gleich, aber wir sind alle, wie Hannah Arendt sagen würde, maximal verschieden. Wir alle sind verschieden. Niemand von uns ist gleich mit irgendjemand anderem, selbst in diesem Raum. Wir sind politisch gleich. Das ist sozusagen die Baseline, worauf es zu bestehen gilt, die politische Gleichheit der Verschiedenen. Deswegen geht es nicht darum, Differenzen abzuschaffen, sondern wir haben das mit der Formel umschrieben, Indifferenz über Differenz nachdenken. Also im Bewusstsein darum, dass wir alle radikal verschieden sind und in dieser radikalen Verschiedenheit gleich sind und gleich sein müssen. Und das heißt, dass alle den gleichen Anteil an der Welt haben. Der postkoloniale Theoretiker Achille Mbembe hat das formuliert, dass alle das gleiche Recht haben, die Welt zu beerben. Und was die Rechten tun, ist genau das in Frage stellen. Und genau das ist es, was sie nicht wollen. Dass die Welt uns allen gehört. Sie wollen entscheiden, wem, oder im Grunde haben sie bereits entschieden, wem die Welt gehören darf und wer nicht zur Welt gehören darf. Und dem müssen wir, ich meine, vor 2-3 Jahren vielleicht noch, hätten die wenigsten von uns, ich selber eingeschlossen, nicht gedacht, dass wir uns in der Situation wiederfinden. Ich meine, insbesondere seit die US-Amerikaner den Präsidenten gewählt haben, den sie jetzt vor einem Jahr gewählt haben, dass wir sozusagen wirklich in der Situation uns befinden, die Demokratie verteidigen zu müssen. Und das ist die Situation, die die westlichen Demokratien gerade zu bestehen haben. Brauchen wir ja gar nicht, ne? Ich meine, das erleben wir in allen unseren Ländern. Ich gucke jetzt gerade Theresa an, irgendwie, die Proteste, die es jetzt gerade in Polen wieder gegeben hat, aber auch, ja, auch in den westlichen Demokratien. Wir sind genau in einer Situation, in der einige beschlossen haben, dass nicht alle die Welt beerben, wie man sagen würde. Dass es dafür, was es dafür braucht, was wir im Buch Kontingenzkompetenz unter anderem genannt haben, wie sich das übersetzt im Alltag und was es dafür zum Beispiel dann auch an alltäglichen Praxen braucht, aber vielleicht auch an Ethos in der Schulbildung etc. pp. Also das Erlernen einer Haltung, die einschließt, dass so wie ich bin, nur eine Weise zu sein ist. Dass es auch anders sein kann. Und dass dieses Anderssein genauso legitim ist wie meine Weise zu sein. Was umgekehrt, und das kommt nochmal zurück zur Frage von, ja, wie nehmen wir die anderen mit in die Verantwortung? Sind die davon ausgenommen? Ja, das gilt natürlich für die anderen auch. So, also diese ethische Haltung zu erlernen, das ist nicht einfach.
Nein.
Und in einer Zeit, die ja auch sehr darauf aus ist, immer zu vereinfachen. So scheinbar sozusagen. Und uns ja auch immer gesagt wird, die Welt ist viel zu kompliziert und es muss alles einfacher werden. Ja, die Welt ist verdammt kompliziert. Das ist sie aber auch immer schon gewesen. Und das macht die Welt ja eigentlich auch so spannend.
Wirklich schön erzählt und I find it very beautiful this when you talk about this competence of contingency. So it means acting with the knowledge of that us, I, and we, anyone, as well as the conditions could be different. When one believes that we use an unified or consistent identity from birth until death, then it's only because we find it comforting to have such a narrative or story about ourselves. Though in the communities where we live since 2 centuries, that is true for no one. We all come from somewhere and no one comes from here. And in that we can seek and find comfort, you're right, and that's very existential, and I find that that's one of the very fine qualities of this book. It's also very philosophical, in an unusual way. And
thank you. I mean, taking that up, I mean, who of us in this room stayed in the same place for his or her entire life? I assume none of us. I mean, we all have this kind of experience that we call it migrated. I mean, we tend to say, okay, migrants are the ones that came from other countries, from other continents maybe, but in some, I mean, not to generalize it and making it kind of banal then, but still, in many ways, all of us have the experience of migration.
yes,
we all migrated to some extent. Geographically, socially, culturally.
And there is this idea that you said that it was easier before. It's a narrative that it was less complex before. And now it's worse than ever. And also this notion, the verrottene Gegenwart, also the rotten present. What do you think about this notion? Or how do you...
Say it again.
the förrottene Gegenwart, also, what do you think of this idea of the present as rotten, or it's someone...
Ah, okay, die
Yeah.
verrottete Gegenwart.
Yeah.
That's a term from a German feminist philosopher, Christina Thürmer-Rohr. She is one of the second wave feminist philosophers in Germany. And she wrote this essay already in the 80s, 1980s, diese ganze verrottete Gegenwart. And she deals in this essay, it was written right after Chernobyl. So it deals with the nuclear catastrophe and all the catastrophes we had, that were happening in the 80s, which were quite a lot. I mean, the world has been a catastrophe for a long time. And she still says, okay, it's in many ways the world is a dystopic place, but this is the only present we have. We can't wait for some kind of utopia happening some time in the future. This present, which is a rotten present, a verrottete Gegenwart, is the only time we have. And this is why we have to live and act now and not wait for a kind of, unknown, uncertain future when everything will be better.
Yes, I find that painful,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
And the impossibility of utopias is painful for, ambitions.
Yeah, but
as
it's
well.
also very liberating, actually. I find it, when I read this in the 80s, I was very young, obviously, when I read this for the first time in mid-80s. And I found it very liberating. Okay, yeah, that's the time we have. And,
Yes.
even in biographical terms, there's only one life. And I can't wait to live my life till the world is a better place. So live it now and make it a better place now. And I think Christina Thürmer-Rohr also used this phrase of verrottete Gegenwart in the sense of don't look at what the world is like and not drüber hinwegtäuschen, sich die Welt schönreden, verleugnen, which he says is kind of a feature of femininity, basically, of maybe white Western femininity, pretending that the world is
Better,
nice, that you can live, a nice private life, and kind of, shut your eyes and not look at what's going on around you, so beyond your own, maybe, for example, private family life.
I fully agree with Judith Butler on her description of this book as a very brave and brilliant work of critical feminism. And I thank you very much for reading it and to talking with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.